If you're thinking about jumping into this, and you're like me, who sat behind a computer and a bit of an ivory tower as a nerdy accountant or CPA or CSA or finance bro, whatever you want to call yourself, just realize, okay, I jumped into an accounting firm, so same thing, but you will be the head of IT, the janitor, ops, all of the things that you don't otherwise do now in your whatever your career is, you're going to have to put a hat on. That is not a part-time commitment.
Welcome to A Founder's Life, and I'm your host, Leo Gestetner. On this show, we dive into the real stories behind the highs and lows of entrepreneurship and how we pursue a balanced and meaningful life along the way. This podcast is sponsored by Thankz, helping founders like us scale with reliable remote talent. Founders at thankz.com, that's THANKZ.com, with the subject line A Founder's Life, and you'll get $1,000 off your first month. Now, I'm excited today to be joined by Mike Jerman. Mike, thanks for being with us. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Leo, very much appreciate it. It's always good to get the message out there. Hi, guys. My name is Mike Jerman. I was an Air Force captain turned PwC director, essentially a very nerdy accountant. I went from the audit practice into deal diligence, helping with large transactions for M&A, before taking the very terrifying leap to start what was called Hollywell Partners, which was a small CPA firm based in the States coming back from Europe. I was the founder, CEO, janitor, ops, IT, everything that you can be day one. We grew that to about 40 people before we sold to private equity, and I continued to manage a much bigger practice. And now the Numera brand, of which Hollywell sits under, is about a 400-person shop, churning right along, doing the same things plus.
Excellent. And talk to us a little bit, you've obviously given us a flavor there, but talk to us a little more about the journey that brought you to where you are today and what a typical client looks like. What's different about your firm now?
Sure. And I think what you're hitting on is that leap and why it was so terrifying. So as a pretty nerdy, risk-averse CPA, I thought I'd be at PwC for life. But personal circumstances changed. In 2017, we had our second daughter, and I basically can picture her, but I traveled 40 weeks that year between India, China, and the US for deal transactions for PwC. So I didn't get to see my kids. Not that there's anything against PwC or professional life or just trying to go get it. It's just something started to make us think of it between myself and my partner, Brianna. And so when we got an offer to move to Houston to make the run at partner, we like to make the joke that Brianna finally said no to a move. We'd moved a lot for PricewaterhouseCoopers, but really it was a family decision to go, okay, let's try it. Our kids are young. Even if whatever my firm was going to be at the time we're thinking about this, even if it goes up in flames, I can say I at least took a risk. I can tell my kids or tell my family. I didn't just stay. Anyways, I'll get off my soapbox. Hollywell, when we first developed it, and I think this is an important message for any potential or current young entrepreneur, I thought we'd be a traditional audit and advisory practice, much like any CPA firm that's not a tax practice. What ended up happening is our old private equity clients from PwC all need help, meaning CFO talent that can sit in the seat for a transaction or a big miss or a new investment, controller, technical accounting help. And so we pivoted to more of a, hey, get in here, help us get through this and get out. And so it was me at first running CFO work for larger private equity. And then a couple of my buddies joined, and then a couple of their buddies joined. And all of a sudden we became a practice. And the real draw for us was you get big four and or investment bank talent from the big shops for like a quarter of the cost. Now, we don't want to call ourselves staff aug or anything else to that. We're not a recruiting firm. We're not staff aug. Even if you were the only person that was a face to a client, you had an army behind you that was helping with memos and templates. It was a shared team. No matter if we're working remotely, all of us got on the same page at least once or twice a week to help the juniors within our practice, to help us as senior professionals. That was our bread and butter. Speed to action, and you get a real team commitment from a small boutique firm, which I think made us interesting for potential acquisition and or our client base. Hope that hits it on the head, Leo. You tell me.
Perfect. And then talk to me a little more about what family means to you.
It's the best explanation I got of it. It's funny. It's from a guy that was a mentor of mine at PwC who actually regretfully did not keep family as a priority. And my wife hates that word priority as to her family. It's the core, right? It's the well that we come back to. It's where I get filled back up for the day. And the joke that this mentor, I won't share names because although he's retired, he may or may not listen to this, and or he would call me later if he found out. He basically said, I made a couple mistakes with family. Because what I didn't realize was I wasn't going to retire with PwC. I was going to retire and be happy with my friends and family. So family is the core of who you go back to us. It's the hip I'm connected to on the couch at nighttime. It's the kids' chess matches after work at nighttime, or helping them with homework and or soccer training in the driveway or the backyard. That's what fills Brianna and I up. And we're homebodies, so we're not exactly social. But whatever, I suppose the message being, whatever your core of people is that you really get filled up by is the family you want to make sure you're connected to as often as possible. So that's where it made the most sense for us to, when we made the leap, to make sure that was part of what we were doing anyway.
Yeah, it's nothing quite like time with family, for me, especially with my kids. I get so recharged by the time with my kids. And what does health look like for you?
So my wife and I were both track and field athletes a bit in college. Her much more relevant and better at hers than I was ever at mine. Health is a non-negotiable, meaning I have a lot of buddies, and I'm sure we all do in our life, that you have these people that go through these cycles. They get really fit, and then they get out of shape, and they try fads. That's fine. Diet aside, which is important. I work out twice a week at minimum as a non-negotiable. There is from 6 to 7:30 on Tuesdays and Thursdays, or Mondays and Wednesdays if I'm traveling and or teaching at the university. I am working out, either a circuit, a sprint workout, a soccer match, but they're not negotiable. I can be sick. I think I could be dying. I'm getting up to work 2 days a week minimum. And that has kept me fit enough to do the things I want to do in life outside of that, meaning eating what I want to, able to travel, able to hang out with my family and wife. That's been the key for us for health. It cannot be something you play with. Health is, there's nothing else in your life that corrects or autocorrects itself more than your body does. Mind and body health comes, I think, from having some discipline towards physical fitness.
Yeah, I do believe a healthy body, healthy mind. And, there's no point in working hard if you're not going to be healthy, you're not going to live to be able to enjoy it, you're not going to have a quality of life to enjoy it that comes from taking health seriously.
Without question.
What do you like to do for fun?
So, although I am a jerk American, I am a huge soccer fan, play and watch, although I did stop playing adult soccer late into my 30s after refs and 25-year-olds still yell at you and still paying to be out there, right? But I'm a huge Liverpool football club. In fact, I'm going over to see a match next week again. A lot of my life revolves around my wife and I's obsession with books and reading. These bookshelves get bigger and longer as you look further down. We're homebodies, so books, kid time, board games, a cigar on the front porch with buddies. I don't tend to leave the Shire much, so my fun is very centric to the things I have quickly at my disposal here at the house. And so that could be a different message to anyone. Other people aren't homebodies. They may need to get out of the house and socialize, but truly, I guess, and it took us a while to realize that it's okay to be homebodies and nerds and introverts, because that's how our cups get filled back up. Find whatever does that for you. You don't have to be pigeonholed into one or the other depending on where you're going. But that cup regeneration, whatever that fun is, needs to come hot and heavy and often, I guess.
Yeah, I think whether that's fun, whether that's health, or whatever it is, you got to work out what's right for you and something that you can then embrace and that you can become part of your routine, whether that become the health side or that become, what you like to do for fun. And how do you keep a balanced life? And again, my definition of balanced life is that center line. No one's permanently in balance, but it's overall a balance between the different aspects.
So we like to, my wife's always trying to reevaluate. We try to, once a quarter or so, she and I are always hanging out anyway. Either we write it down or we talk about it. There's 3 circles, right? There's family, friends, and work, right? And family includes your kid time. When we talk about it and we evaluate each other's responses, because you never really are as nice or as mean to yourself as you should be. That's why I never really like self-evals at work, because you're never as good to yourself as you would be, or neither as negative. Do the 3 circles more or less, are they the same size as to what we're concentrating on? And I might have a different view on how I'm treating friends or communicating with her, and she may come back and say, you say that, but you blew this off with your military buddies, or you missed this with the kids, so that I might think I'm in balance, but she's pointing out the fact that your work circle's gotten too big and needs to come back. Or it doesn't mean that I'm going to work any more or less or harder. It's where does our focus and time get committed? We try to have those circles be the same size, because it became very clear to me early in my career, and it was clear to her, my work circle was dwarfing anything else in my life. And I'm not saying you as young entrepreneurs that haven't necessarily put in a first career don't need to commit and learn your trade. But there were things that I just should not have done. Like, don't bring your computer on your honeymoon, or don't open it anyway. Don't blow off your bachelor party because you got a work call from PwC you thought you had to be on, and really no one cared if you were there. There are certain things that should have never happened. That if that would be the message I would come back with. Say yes to more than you otherwise would to expand that comfort zone. But there's balance to be had in not being the guy that says yes to everything.
That's fair enough. And again, it's finding what's right for you. I mean, I'm the guy who would bring my laptop on my honeymoon, and I should say did. But, but for me, I can work for an hour and then switch my mind off. Like some people, they'll work for that hour and then their mind will be so busy with work that they can't focus on whatever else they're there for. For me, actually, by doing that hour's work, I'm actually able to switch off and focus, whereas instead I'd be stressing about what's outstanding. So I think each their own. Some people need to completely switch off. And I certainly think it's important for people to understand what works for them and to respect that and to be able to be present, whether it be, as you said, with on your honeymoon or whether it be with your kids. I mean, I go on holiday a lot with my kids. Now, I may work for a couple of hours, but I'm able to be completely present when I'm not working with them. And I think that's how people need to learn how they can be present.
And I think that ability to turn that off after an hour, Leo, to your point, comes with a bit of wisdom and age. I wouldn't have been able to do that earlier in my career. I can do it now. I need that 30 to 45 minutes to put out fires, but then can literally go back to doing whatever it was we were focused on outside of work. I could not have done that 20 years ago.
A lot of things come with age. And how does, for you, what has been a pivotal moment in your life?
I think there's a couple. I remember the day we decided to start, or at least try for our own practice. I was on a train. I was 33. I was coming back from PwC in London. And I remember feeling, it's funny, I had Moody Blues, the Satin Nights, whatever that song is, playing in my earpods on the train. And I remember realizing that day, having just decided to start a practice back in the States, we're about to transition back. I knew I had another year to put under PwC's belt, but we had a plan. And I remember, I don't know what it was about that day, but that was the first day I ever felt truly comfortable in my own skin. And I say that because I remember vividly feeling comfortable that day. Not to say I wasn't a confident young student and a decent athlete and all those things, but I think this may sound weird. It's probably the day that I realized I didn't know everything. How many juniors do we come across nowadays in our careers or even ourselves that we think we know everything the day we start anything, which is clearly not true. The day you realize you don't know anything compared to what you do know relative is the day you're probably pretty figured out you're kind of bright and wise. That was a pivotal day. It was a sunny day in London, which was somewhat common, I guess. People think. Anyway, I'm getting way down the soapbox. That was a big one. It may sound cliche or Wall Streetish to say the day I sold the practice the first time it felt like a check the box journey that, we didn't build the practice to sell it. And we'd actually rebuffed quite a few offers over our 5 or 6 year journey prior to that. But knowing that we'd made the right decision, we'd picked the right group, we had the right partners in place, means we did something. I don't know what it was, but we did something that someone else thought was worth buying and keeping us on, which I think is a pretty important part of this. Those were two. And then I don't want to be too cliche, Leo, and I feel it's the day my kids were born were amazing. We didn't actually think we could have kids, and to have them come along was pretty great. When I deployed in the military in Iraq, that's not an experience anyone else gets to do. Although I was a big nerd and wasn't on the front lines, it was still an unusual time in life to be part of that journey. So the big moments that everyone spots, but the other two, meaning that day in London at 33 was pretty special because I'll never forget it. For some weird reason, that was the day I realized I probably realized I was an idiot, but an idiot that realizes he's an idiot is pretty important. And then that day we sold was a pretty cool moment.
Thank you. What is one piece of advice you would give to an aspiring entrepreneur?
Are we saying aspiring meaning they're thinking about getting into entrepreneurship or they're owner-operators right now? Because that's two different messages, right?
Perfect. Why don't you give us both the separate messages then? If
you're thinking about jumping into this and you're like me who sat behind a computer and a bit of an ivory tower as a nerdy accountant or CPA or CSA or finance bro, whatever you want to call yourself, just realize, okay, I jumped into an accounting firm, so same thing, but you will be the head of IT, the janitor, ops, all of the things that you don't otherwise do now in whatever your career is, you're going to have to put a hat on. That is not a part-time commitment. I like to tell people, and teach a lot in the ETA community and the traditional search fund community. If I could get you to realize you're going to put a cot in a room and live, eat, breathe, and sleep through this, at least in the early stages, let's look at it this way. You may think it's part-time and you can do ivory tower and sit on a spreadsheet and run a business. I'm not saying people don't do that and it doesn't work and they get lucky. When it hits the fan and things go the wrong way, what I kept telling my wife and my family and friends when I made this to some of them was a ridiculously dumb or silly journey to leave a very established practice to come try this. Of course, they've all turned their heads and went, okay, you figured something out. If it went the wrong way and it went completely up in flames and failed, I can look back and say, I did everything I possibly could have within my power to make this thing try to work. I didn't want to be able to say that I kind of took it half-assed. I tried to do everything in a spreadsheet. I didn't talk to ops. I didn't go out and try to sell work. I didn't travel to talk to other PE firms or potential clients. Make sure you are all in. This is not a half-assed venture. Really good entrepreneurs, at least the ones I know, and I hope Leo would echo this, put everything they could into this. And sometimes it doesn't go well. And sometimes it really does go the wrong way and completely flame out. It's much better to look back and take it positively as I tried everything I could have, which I can say without a doubt I did to make Hollywell something. And I didn't want it to be the other way, that if I don't want to point out to me just flaking through, I tried a little something and went back to a big practice. I hope that makes sense. That's if you're thinking about it. Those of you that are in owner-operator craziness right now, slow down. It's going to feel really, really poor some days and really great some days. Realize that the journey you're on, very few people will ever take. That is a really cool thing to be part of this club. High five virtually to all of you. Slow down, write down your list and priorities, put your huddle together for your team, and realize tomorrow we'll probably pick right back up. Anyway.
Great advice. Thank you. And how can people find you?
Hollywell Partners. I think if you looked it up, we're a Numera brand under the bigger firm now. I'm available at Mike Jerman at hollywellpartners.com. Always willing to give time to potential entrepreneurs, current entrepreneurs, especially veterans that are trying this journey. And I think we're on Twitter at Hollywell Partners or Hollywell Team, or X, and at German Michael, full name.
Well, thank you for joining today.
Leo, thank you. This has been great.
And thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed the conversation, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, tell your friends, and please leave a review.